recorded. All right. Well, I just wanted to welcome Reverend Bill to my podcast, which doesn't exist yet, but maybe this is the first one.
Well, I'm feeling kind of bad because I don't have my Hawaiian shirt on or nothing. I could go get my Hawaiian beads, my coral bracelets and all that's good stuff. But my heart is there. Aloha.
Your heart, aloha. Well, I feel your energy here. So it's great to, connect in the Unity Church. That's where we first met in person in this life. But who knows? Who knows what other connections there may
Yeah,
be.
yeah, we're emphasizing that because honestly, I don't meet any strangers. And I think if you're on the path, like yourself, I don't think you meet many strangers. There's people that you pull back into your orbit, I call spiritual orbit, and they come at the time that you're ready for them to come. Either for you to help assist them or vice versa, or it's both ways, but it's the time that, no, this is the time this is supposed to happen. So,
Well, yeah, let me ask you about that because what I've noticed in my life is when I've asked for help, like the teachers are showing up. Or when I left San Francisco, I had this amazing yoga teacher, but it was more of like physical yoga. And I didn't even know, and I'm Indian, and I didn't exactly know what yoga was all about. I grew up in California, and it's not about the physical practice, the asana. It's a very, very, very small part. And I moved to Hawaii, and I kind of just knew. I'm like, I need like another yoga teacher. And I thought it was going to be someone in the studio, but it was actually a yoga teacher at my studio in North Shore that told me about a class called the Yoga Philosophy course that was being taught at the North Shore Meditation Center. And I knew I had to take that course. It was like so clear. And that was where I connected with Yogananda really deeply for the first time because we used Autobiography as a Yogi as the textbook. There he is in the background there, a couple
yeah.
pictures. I have that same picture, the last smile in my other room. And that was profound. That connection to Yogananda was really, really profound. And I finally understood what yoga is all about. And I think, why don't you tell us what yoga is about? But this really, fits in with what you just said. When the student is ready, the teacher appears. And what I've also noticed is when the student's really ready, the teacher disappears.
No, not so much. Here's what happens. At some point, the advanced student realizes that he's been looking outside himself for the source. And then all of a sudden he realizes that the teacher's within, the guru's within, the healer's within, the savior's within. Look in the mirror. And when he get to that point, they realize there was never anything outside of him, including the guru. Yogananda is just a part of you. God is a part. It's all you. It's facets of you. It's because there's only one consciousness. That's the connection. What's God? God's this old guy with the beard. No, it's this consciousness. We share the cosmic consciousness. That's all of us. There's only one consciousness. And so we think we're the inventors of this, and we got a trademark and a copyright, and it's our idea and it's our original wordage. And there's nothing original. It's all there already. And so I never worry about it because somebody hey, Reverend Bill, this guy's he's stealing your words from your video and your book. I said, I don't care. Shoot the messenger. It doesn't matter. So everybody's got this thing. I own it. I own it. I got it. People got to know if this is going out there and it's not quoting me, it's no. I'm saying I don't care if the guy's quoting me and he's taking credit. I don't care. It's the message.
Yes.
You're at that point in your life where it looks like things are accidentally happening and weird things are happening and there's coincidences and everything is sequencing into this life that you got going. But no, it's contrary to this whole thing about free will, which I got some real questions about, because think about this. How much free will you have if ultimately every single one of us, right? We're all destined to become Jesus, Buddha. We're all destined to become enlightened. We're all destined to return. So no matter what decisions you make, going up and down, back and forth, sideways, back roads, up the mountain, down the mountain, doesn't matter. So how much free will do you really have? Because even if you do terrible, your ultimate destiny is to wake up and realize your oneness. So that's your destiny. So you can't even mess it up. It's like make all the bad decisions you want because all time is now. So nobody's going to beat you to enlightenment. Nobody's waking up for it's. We're all there. It's happening simultaneously. So right now in another dimension, just for the sake of a word so we can keep track here, in another dimensional now, you're already a Buddha. You've already reached that state of Buddhahood, or or Zenness, or Samadhiness, or whatever you want to say. You're this angelic being. You've reached a certain level, and that's a fact. And that's the whole thing. That wait a minute, if I'm already this, but I'm stuck in this present consciousness, I'm claiming this little space here, which is not even a space, as the ultimate. No, your past and your future all happening simultaneously. So me and you are having this conversation 5,000 years ago, simultaneously with now. You're just catching up. That's all. Where you want to focus?
It's interesting. I agree. It's like when I started this company and everything is just flowing and unfolding, and I know what I came here to create, and in my heart and my body, it's already done. It's already happened. The journey, the fun part is putting the pieces together. It's really
fun. Most people keep looking for the end product. You waste your life. You keep looking for the finish line. You keep looking for the goal to reach the target. It's like, I know some guys that climb Mount Everest. They train 5 years. They're breaking, they didn't enjoy any of the training. It was just blood, sweat, and tears. This is their goal, to get to the top of the mountain. They're going up the mountain. They're really suffering. They pass a couple of dead bodies of guys who have been frozen up there for like 7 years or something, right? And everybody just walks by these dead guys, and they just keep going to the top. They get on the top, they're up there like 5 minutes, 8 minutes. Somebody says, hey, you got to get down. And then that's their pinnacle. They're there. Now what do? Now they're going down the hill, and it's like they spent 5 years to have a 5-minute summit. Is that all there was? And they actually came back depressed. Like, it's like the guys that went to the moon, in the 1960s and 70s. These guys went to the moon. That was their goal as an astronaut. And they get to the moon, they go, is this all there is?
Yeah.
Right. So you have to enjoy getting there. So if you take every moment and you enjoyed climbing up the mountain and you enjoyed the training and you enjoy, that's it. That's as good as it gets, is now. So reaching the goal is, it's like getting a new car. Well, I get a new car, you get that new car smell, it feels great, and a few months later, it's just a car.
Well, Steve Jobs said to his teams, the journey is the reward. I love that. That's what I say to my teammates too. This is really fun, just building this and like having full faith that it's already done. I have full, complete faith and surrender and trust that's already done. And the law of least effort is guiding everything, truly, including this connection. And I don't believe in coincidences either, none. And I don't believe in setbacks either. Even the hard things I've gone through were not setbacks. They've propelled me forward. And I wouldn't actually trade anything I've gone through in my life.
All right, so how'd you get to, let's interview you for a minute.
Okay.
I know enough. Everybody hears me talk all the time, just for the heck of it. How'd you end up deciding to live in Hawaii? Not just go to Hawaii, but decide to live there and do what you're doing now. What prompted that? Was there something happened in your life, or was it something you felt and was motivated to do?
We'll go back a bit to one of my years. I was living in New York City. I was basically trying to be a good Indian boy. really conforming to doing the things that I thought would make my parents proud and had the kind of job and degrees and lived in New York City, had this corporate job. And I knew I had to get out. And because what was happening was I lived on Upper East Side, then I lived in Greenwich Village, where I had for the first time like a experience with a spirit that actually really freaked me out. But it showed me that there was something else out there that is not explained by the science tools that we have. Then I was moved to the Lower East Side, and I knew, oh, I'm on this path into Brooklyn. And once you go to Brooklyn, you don't really leave. People get stuck there, and you become a New Yorker. And I knew I was supposed to leave, and I ended up business school was my way kind of out of this path I was on to give me some time that still conformed to being the good Indian boy, and but allowed me to discover what was next. And I went to Berkeley for business school. I It's the only school I wanted to go to. At the time, I don't know about now, but it was the third hardest school to get into. It was Stanford, Harvard, then Berkeley.
Oh,
And
Berkeley, my wife graduated from there. I'm telling you, it's a hard school to get into.
it's a really hard school to get into.
Very, very hard. I didn't go there. I went to the University of San Francisco, which anybody could get in if you got money. Yeah, I'll pay. Oh, you're in.
Yeah,
All right.
I didn't get in undergrad. It was a really hard school. And my GPA from college was pretty terrible because I had conformed again and thought I was supposed to do computer science and I hated it. And I was trying really hard. I'd study till 4 a.m. and I'd fail a test. Or I'd get like a D on, no, I got, the moment I decided I have to change my major is because I got a 33% on a test and it got curved to a B. And I'm like, this doesn't make sense to me. Like I'm not actually learning this, but nobody's learning this. But honestly, I cruised into Berkeley. Like it was really flowy and easy, and I just knew I had to go there. And it was also coinciding with the time I was 28, where I was actually coming to terms with my sexuality and what I was attracted to. And I knew when I was going to Berkeley, I was gonna, okay, I'm not gonna conform anymore. I'm just gonna kind of let things almost like fall apart. Just let like things get blown to smithereens so I could rebuild it back. And at Berkeley, I only applied to one internship. It was at Facebook, and it was 2012. And it was like the top internship you could get. Back in 2012, it was the week I started was the week of the IPO. So I'm on Facebook's campus. It wasn't Meta, now it's Meta, but it's Facebook back then. It's only 5,000 employees, not that big compared to what it is now. And I'm there and I see the press is there, and everyone's all hyped up about the IPO, and there's all these instant millionaires overnight. It was like the pinnacle. And I'm like, what is this? What is this company? And I saw what a company became, and in my mind, the seed got planted. Well, what could this company have been if it was more conscious? So that seed got planted in 2012. And when I graduated, that was the time I was going through the coming out process and telling my family and really struggling to get a job because I just didn't feel like I fit in the system. I didn't want to work in the tech industry. I had a little startup job that I didn't really love and didn't work for a couple of years. And I actually saw a therapist, and he mentioned he planted the seed about plant medicines. He's like, well, what about some of these plant medicines? I'm like, huh. And so I started actually, and I'm very open about this, like I started experimenting with mushrooms, small amounts, and going to Burning Man and seeing, wow, like what human beings are capable of creating. What we came here to do is just create. And this journey took me, well, I got fired from a job, which is the best thing that ever happened to me because I was in a yoga class with Janet Stone, who's an amazing yoga teacher. My first class with her, someone invited me to this class, and I'm sitting on the mat, and at the end, she's chanting the Gayatri Mantra, which is a chant of Ganesha, which my mom had always sung. And I remember growing up, it just never moved me in the same way. And I'm lying there and I'm crying. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And she announced, oh, there's one spot open in her teacher training in Bali. It's coming up in 3 weeks. And I was like crying, and I was, well, I don't have a job. I should just I've been wanting to go to Bali. And so I just jumped on it. I've never splurged on myself. And it was pretty expensive, but it felt important. And that was 2018. And that really kickstarted my journey into starting like a consistent yoga practice, which was the physical practice more than anything. But later that year, I was guided to go to India, and I was sitting in an ashram in
Was that your
Rishikesh.
first trip to India?
That was my fourth trip, but it was my first trip without my family.
Oh, okay, that's kind of where I was going. Yeah,
Very different. So it was like my first trip to India because the other trips were
family.
family and a little chaotic and sightseeing and stuff like that. But I'm sitting, well, a few things happened at this ashram. It's called the Anand Prakash Ashram. And I didn't really talk to anybody. I kind of stuck to myself. But there's one person named Rob who was playing the Hanuman Chalisa on his guitar. And it was so beautiful. And I felt compelled to just go talk to him and tell him how beautiful this music was. And we got to talking, and we pieced some things together. He said, "Oh, I know Janet Stone, your yoga teacher. Like, we actually play music together a lot. And whenever I come to San Francisco, we play in our classes." And then the other thing that got pieced together was the person who had introduced me to Janet Stone was somebody named Danny Kaufman, who was a really good friend of mine. And we found out that Rob, at one point, Danny was a child actor in Seattle. Rob was a bit older. He's about 10 years older than me. And he was Danny's director in a movie when Danny was a child actor. So there was some connection that's not coincidental. I'm sitting in an ashram in northern India. And at that same ashram, I was just sitting, I was really struggling with work and my profession, what I was supposed to do. And this voice came through. It was me talking to me, but very loud. And it said, "Zubin, you're supposed to become a designer." And I'd always want to be a designer. And I'd been really attracted to creative people. And when I lived in New York, all my friends were creatives and journalists and actors and writers and models. And I loved that. I mean, I also had the finance friends and marketing and all that, but I loved people who were pursuing the creative paths. And so came back from India, and 3 months later, I was at a boot camp, a design boot camp, to learn this new skill and start over. I think I was 36 at the time in a room full of 25-year-olds. And that's where my ego was like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? I have an MBA from Berkeley. I should be able to just get a job that's great. But it felt right. And at the time, my housemate, someone named Brad Wolf, who I lived with in Berkeley in business school and then lived together in San Francisco for 6 years, he started a nonprofit called Reimagine. And Reimagine was all about end of life. How do we live more fully through the lens of our mortality? And this is before COVID. We were having big festivals about death and dying. Like, thousands of people would come, hundreds of events. We used art and music and creativity. And really, it was community led to open up conversations about death, because we should be talking about death. It's taboo in our culture, and it really shouldn't be. And I had also read a book called The Surrender Experiment. It's one of my favorite books I've ever read. It's the book I've given out more than any other book, and I have like 10 copies in my house. So people
More than my books.
more than your books, which I haven't read the physical form, but I feel like I've probably been downloaded the non-physical form. Yeah, exactly. And the part of the surrender experiment is to follow the breadcrumbs into the path that brings you the most joy. Like, what feels right to you? If I use my brain to think about it, I'm like, oh, I can't go work for this small nonprofit and not get paid much and all these things. But my heart was like, this is like interesting and I should go explore it. And so that journey took me into, I worked for free, then I did a contract and part-time, then I became full-time, had a product. And after COVID, we spent a couple of years designing a whole new social platform around post-traumatic growth. And for me, though, I was feeling like there was something bigger. I didn't know what it was. I felt like there's something that human beings are looking for that we're missing, and I didn't know what it was. And we fast forward to 2020, where I was on my friend's farm, Blake, who has got a farm on North Shore, who I went to business school with. There's 3 people at Berkeley I was supposed to meet. Brad, started Reimagine, Blake, who has his farm, Bart, who was just here a couple of weeks ago. He was doing a postdoc in environmental history. He's a professor at Ohio State. And he's written all these books about Monsanto and Coca-Cola and these companies' impact on the environment. And his son, River, is my godson. And so those are the 3 Bs at Berkeley: Blake, Bart, Brad. That's why I got pulled there. It was easy. I flowed. My GPA was I probably had the worst GPA in my entire class, and I just cruised right in. And I was on my friend's farm on the North Shore, and again was having a plant medicine experience, and there was a very loud message because I was ready to leave the Bay Area. I grew up in the Bay Area, lived there for a long time. I felt like my growth was stagnating. I was supposed to go somewhere else. Didn't know where to go because all the fires popping up. I'm like, I don't know if it's the West Coast. I don't think it's the East Coast. Like, where am I going to go? And I'd been visiting Oahu is the place I visited more than anywhere else in the world. And I never thought I'd be living here, never crossed my mind. But the message on the farm was very clear, and it was a very much connection to source. I would say there was some information coming through, and it was loud. It said, Zubin, you're supposed to move to Hawaii. And that's what brought me here. I moved here a year later, and it's everything's been unfolding since I got here. I'm starting to learn some things about past lives and what brought me here in the Hawaiian Kingdom, and my actual purpose here is quite big. And this is where I'm creating this company because once I studied Yogananda, read autobiography, started practicing the meditations, I could really feel like, wow, the only thing that actually matters is self-realization. That's the only thing. That's what we come here for. And we all get there. It could be this lifetime or it could take more lifetimes.
Well, eventually you reach a point where that's not an issue. The issue is we're just here to love. And that's a byproduct.
That's exact self-realization is the byproduct of love. Yeah. And that's been in my field a lot in the last month and around this company, and probably why we're having this conversation right now, because there's a misconception that enlightenment or realization is out of reach. Like you have to be this monk who goes live in a cave and have this perfect life. I mean, we're striving to be perfectly human, but humans are not perfect. And what I believe is the root cause of every challenge facing humanity is that human beings have forgotten the truth of who and what we are. And I've seen the power of social media. It's taking our species in one direction, but I know how powerful it is. And it's only been around for 15, 20 years. Like I'm not someone who's like, wow, I give up on human beings. And I don't have a dystopian view of the world. I never have. I just know we have to build what human beings need and deserve and what's heart-centered and what's going to be a counterbalance to AI, which I call EI, extended intelligence. Because I don't think there's anything artificial about it, but we need a counterbalance that's really more human. And so that was the inspiration for this company called Realize, and that name is very intentional. It's a place for us to realize the truth of who and what we are. And I see there's 8 billion paths to self-realization. And there's many teachers, including you and myself, and everyone's a teacher. Every experience I've had has been a teaching experience. And collectively, we are the guru. Like that's our job. It's just to walk each other home. So that's brought me to now in this company, and we're getting ready to test this first version of the platform on Monday. And the other thing I should say is what's I would say more innovative, possibly than the actual product, is how I envision the business structure, because I'm treating this company like a living, breathing, conscious organism, which means it holds karma. The law of giving and receiving apply. The law of pure potentiality applies. The law of least effort applies. What I believe is the reason capitalism is the way it is, it's because it's completely built against the universal laws. Like it doesn't flow with how nature operates. And so that's being built into the structure of the company, including I'm exploring how do we get this company to the world. Like we talked about, we don't really own anything. Like this company doesn't belong to me.
Well, here's the reality of that. All these guys that got billions or tens of thousands, doesn't make a difference. This is my books. This is my house. This is my. When you drop dead tomorrow, you owned nothing. You own nothing ever.
Yes.
You can't take anything with you, and it goes back to nature and it dissolves and rots. You own nothing but your thoughts and your karma. And that's why it's important to embrace love. Love is the only thing you can really own.
Hmm.
That's real. So
Hmm.
yeah, so these people have this illusion that they own stuff. God knows I deal with enough Silicon Valley guys. They think they can buy their way to enlightenment. It's like, well, and they try to, they want to. I don't want your money. I don't want your gifts. I don't want to be owned. I'm not impressed. I'm sorry. You're not getting extra time with me. I'm not for sale. Well, no, I could do all this for you. And I go, I don't care. You'll never have what I have. And I go, what? Enough. You'll never have enough. You just keep striving next level. So, you've been in Silicon Valley. It's all about everybody's measuring themselves up against other people by how much stock, how much billions they got, how many cars they got, what got home. It's all status stuff. It's a measurement. Very few measure where they're at against their heart. What do they love? So anyway, so it's interesting you end up in Hawaii. That's kind of me. That's kind of like my mecca. I always go there to recharge. And you got this farm, this guy's on a farm out there in North Shore. And I can just remember as a 18-year-old getting all cut up on the corals there in Pipeline and Sunset and all that. That's used to be some pretty rough surfing. I don't know if, it's probably just as bad today, but it was, you took your chances. You came out all cut, scratched, and half drowned. And then you go, God, that was good. I almost drowned. I mean, it's like adrenaline kick, it's like, you know,
Well, back then you probably had to worry about the localism too.
oh, Holly coming over there with against the locals. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. That was territorial. It's like,
territorial. Yeah, and interestingly, I'm
they'll run you
connected.
down on a wave.
Oh yeah, and I'm connected with a lot of the people that were like the Hawaiians who are really spearheading that, who are doing amazing work now. But back then, we're
Back then. But
not
see,
back then.
the kahunas kind of embraced me when I was there as a young man. Um, and the word got out that people left me alone, and
Hmm.
I've been accepted. And then, of course, I'm back there now, and the energy healing community and the kahunas and everybody come out and they accept me for who and what I am, whatever that is in their mind. Um, I'm just me. I've never really changed. I'm the same guy I was. That's a strange thing about it. Well, when did you get this? When did you get on the path? I'm going, ever since I've been me my whole life. There hasn't been this defining moment where here's where I change and and you have this great, it's like I have experiences, but it's like go chop wood, fetch water, sweep the porch. It's like, it's never been a thing. I don't care how spectacular this thing that happens to you. It's never been that. It's always, okay, expected that. That's normal. Move on. It's like, um, we each come to this world and we have our timetable, let's say, and the pieces start to fall in place because your pieces were starting to fall in place before you even met me because people were telling me about you. Um, so you run other people's radars, and other people's radars said these two guys got to cross paths, which is really kind of interesting. That's most of my relationships is somebody introduces me, um, and I just roll. It's not important, but I
And that's true of everybody who comes into my field now. That's the question. Like, am I being tested anymore? I don't think so. I think God is just like, here's what you need at this moment. Here you go. Here's what you need at this moment. Here you go.
okay. I'll give you credit for something that you don't give yourself credit for. Everything in your life, you're manifesting. So if you
Hmm.
got grace coming and blessings coming and miracles coming, they're not just gifts off the top of God's, greatness. These are things that you manifested
Hmm.
through your own love, your purity of thoughts, through your actions, how you treat others, your kind. All these things add up, karma, everything. So you're being pulled. I mean, pulled. That's my sense. You're being pulled and led, and you have learned the art of surrender. Meaning, well, it feels like I should go here, so I'll go here. That's kind of where you're at now. It's not like I have to put a rope on you and drag you anymore. It's like, okay, there's an open door. Let's open it up, see what's behind it. That's kind of where I'm sensing where you're at. So this journey of self-discovery is uh been much easier for you because you've been very open-hearted. It's like, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready. What's behind the door? What do you got behind door number 3? I'll take it, right? So
Yeah.
that's where you're at. And so all these things are happening to you in Hawaii. No accident,
Mhm.
no randomness. Uh, it was perpetually planned. It's like when you came into birth, this thing's been kind of laid out. You're not discovering new paths. You're following ones that you've already set up for yourself. And those people that have been guiding you from wherever, this all kind of agreed to. And you're following your heart and your inner voice, which other people get into trouble because they try to control everything. This has happened. I don't want that. I want this.
Yeah.
And then
Yep.
yeah. So you've learned the art of, well, maybe this is not something I should, maybe this is flowing here. This feels better. And you've been going with the stream. And when you flow with the stream, where do all the streams flow to? It flows back to the source, the ocean, right? Where do all the streams of thought and love flows back to the source? So when you open up your heart and just say, I'm here, I'm joined today. And every
Oh,
moment, take it as you go. And you just,
that,
where it's going,
yeah. Exactly. It's the trust and surrender. It's kind of like, I even think about like the constraints you mentioned. Like when I am hiring people, I ask them to write up their dream job. I don't give them a job description. What puts you in your zone of genius? Let's start there. And that's my term my investors use a lot too. And the funding, by the way, just dropped in my lap. It was a childhood friend who's like that's a whole other story. And it was not hard to get. It was just, it kind of blew my, I was asking for advice and I got funding to go start this thing. But he said, our job is to put you in your zone of genius and get out of the way. It's kind of like we want to be like that phone booth that Clark Kent goes into and comes out as Superman. And
yeah, most
and
investors haven't learned that sometimes silent partners should be just that. Turn it
yeah,
over to the creative energies and just trust.
totally. And these are very conscious people. I've known Manan, my lead investor, right, or the first investor, for 40 years. And our spiritual paths, we kind of went our own ways and came back together about 3, 4 years ago and started talking about Yogananda and the spiritual laws of success and the surrender experiment. And so our work together is actually our spiritual journey unfolding too. Like there's no disconnection. Like I worked in nonprofit. I didn't want to start a tech company. I was like, I got to get out of here. But then the message came through is we have to bring the medicine to the people where they're at. And right now, people are on phones and the internet. What people just go read books and go sit by a tree, great, but that's just not what's happening yet. I think eventually we will get to that space where people are not on the devices as much. Um, but even like when I think about EI, extended intelligence, people are really afraid of it. And I've seen exchanges from very conscious people with Claude, for instance, and I can feel the consciousness and love come through the EI because it's all about the constraints and controls we put on it. If we can build something to be a spiritual conduit for the divine, what you're talking about, all these serendipities and coincidences, that can be cultivated through a field of love. And that's the real intent behind this company, is to seed it with love and intention and care, and with the idea to give this company to the world. Like, this does not belong to me. And then let spirit basically move all the pieces around to help bring this into reality. And like I do a little bit of work. My favorite part of the Bhagavad Gita is where Krishna tells Arjuna that effort is rewarded. And I've noticed when I take a step, then it moves all these pieces. Like Monday, we're starting our first test of the platform, finally putting it in front of people. And I'm kind of nervous and it just needs to happen. Put that gauntlet down. And I know what's going to happen is the more people are going to show up and resources because I'm making the effort. But it's not like I have to do everything. Most
Yeah,
of
here's a part of success, quote unquote, success that people don't have. They figure if they do they put up a board, a dream board of some kind, right, on their refrigerator, and here's the car, here's the house, here's all these things, and they're trying to, and they're positive thinking and doing all these mantras and and positive sayings and bumper sticker crap, and they think that's it. Well, without effort, that's just a fantasy game. Might as well just be wishing, um, because without effort, nothing happens. Even these athletes that Olympic athletes who visualize their game without playing it, they visualize running and getting times or swimming or playing basketball, and you go, well, they're doing no, they're still putting in the practice. They're still lifting the weights. They're still getting the diet right. They're exercising. And then this is an added thing, right? So without effort, you can't meet your destiny. It's you got to do something. It's like you can't just fantasize and have positive thoughts that's going to do something for you. Sorry, all the positive thinking in the world ain't going to make you. That's like you're 200 pounds overweight, but I got these positive thoughts. I visualize myself thin. Well, unless you're dieting and exercising, I'm sorry, all that positive thinking is going to do nothing. It's well, there you go.
well, let me ask you this, because what I feel is a missing link to manifestation or the creation of the world, the life that we are dreaming of is connection to source, spirit, God, whatever we want to call it. And
Yeah.
Yogananda talks about. That's why you have Yogananda on your altar there. I have Krishna and Yogananda all over. This is my path. I have a mango tree that I connect with my ancestors with. It doesn't have to be, you know, a spiritual figure. It could be pictures of our ancestors or a fruit we're connected to. But when I see and feel them, when I eat those mangoes, it's the first of all, it's the sweetest mango I've ever had in my life, or the ones growing in the yard here. And I also am Indian, and mangoes come from India. And it's a big part of my culture, my lineage. I feel very connected to my
Think
ancestors.
about this. I'll throw one more for you.
Yeah.
You take If you take a map and look at the Hawaiian Islands,
Yeah.
you go around the world,
Yeah.
India on the other side of this.
Yeah.
It's a polar opposite. It's like heads and tails.
Yep. And it's actually Mumbai, where
And
my family's from, is right on the line.
there you go. And Pune is lined up with Pune in India. So
Oh, interesting. Didn't know that one.
It is. And
Whoa.
I was
The
pointed
other
out to me
place,
by a guru that went there, and he goes,
whoa.
with
The
this
other place that's lined up is Mexico City, which is a
my
city I've been very
guru
drawn to.
told me, you ever wonder the connection between Hawaii and India is? And I didn't know there was one. Besides, the geographical stuff. And he says the old Nath tradition, the Nath yogis, in the Himalayas and everything, with their chants, their healings, their meditations, their all the stuff they do. He says, take away the culture and the language from Hawaiian and the Indian, and it's the same energy. It's the closest energy, the Kahuna religion. It's the closest religion in the world to old yoga that they practice, the Nath yogis. It's the closest. And I go, what? Because I used to live in Hawaii. I go, really? He goes, yeah. He says, it's just cultural differences. It's just cultural, the legends are different, the stories are different, but it's the same energy mix. And so I just thought point out. So there's something about for an Indian to be there in particular that feels like home, because it's the same kind of vibration, it's kind of same frequency in the islands that you find like in the Himalayas, for example.
It
And
feels more like home than the Bay Area, where I grew up and spent the last 10 years before moving here.
well, that's my hometown, San Francisco. I was born in San Francisco, so the Bay Area is my home. But first thing I did when I graduated high school, I mean, literally, first thing I did, 24 hours after high school graduation, I was on an airplane at Oakland Airport, had a one-way ticket, flew to Hawaii with the surfboard, Bill Wax, and a couple swim trunks, and there I was, 18-year-old in Hawaii, thinks he's going to survive on $40. Rude awakening, but everything worked out. It's just the way it is. So you follow your heart. I was drawn there. Some people are drawn there. Some people go there as a vacation spot, and they go drink their Mai Tais and get sunburned and, play the ukulele maybe. But it's a way of life there if you're tuned to it. It's more than this, and it's more than family. It's something deeper. And when you reach that level where you understand the real ohana, the family spirit that's there, when you really reach that, you're going to discover something's even more deeper. It's real. There's something totally different. And some of these younger kahunas are starting to get back to the basics. It got kind of off track for years, a few decades, but they're coming back, and they're trying to get the traditions back, and they're trying to get back to teachings. And it's a cultural thing. But once you get past the culture, it's an energy thing.
Yes.
So and now you got the big volcano on that big island going crazy. I mean,
oh, crazy. I was just there. Oh, crazy. It's
very
active. There's also, a lot of work that's being done around the restoration of the Hawaiian Kingdom. It still continues, and I believe it's accelerating. Because my view for Hawaii is, and this is actually why my feeling is why it's so militarized. I believe this is some of the most powerful, potent land on the planet. And people can come here and become awakened or move pretty quickly closer to realization. There's something very, very powerful.
It's like all sacred places. Some people go someplace, they could be standing in the middle of things where I'm seeing great beings standing around them, and they're just totally oblivious, and they're dropping their garbage, and they're smoking a cigarette, and they're not. It's never the place. The sacredness is within. And when you go someplace where you can plug it in, it's better. But ultimately, I've learned, in 10 years, I'll be 80. All right. So at my age, middle age, we'll call it middle age, I've learned that, when you close your eyes, you could be in the Himalayas, you could be in Babaji's cave, you could be in anywhere in the world you want to be. It's the same exact experience. You don't have to travel to the mountain to have the mountain experience. It's within. There's only one space. There's nothing outside of you. And people go, well, that's easy for you to say. You've been to the Himalayas, you've been to China, you've been to Vietnam, you've been to all these places, you've been to South Machu Picchu and all that, right? And I go, yes. When I was younger, because I was chasing the sacred places. But now I realize it's all within. And I said, you could save a lot of money and time and effort on your body. But the young people want to go out and experience they want to, it's part of life. I want to experience, Mount Kailash, I want to walk around it. Well, you know what? You can do that when you sleep. You can do that when you meditate. It doesn't make any difference. But when you reach that point, it doesn't matter where you are. You could be in a garbage dump. It doesn't make a difference.
Oh, yeah.
Everything goes sacred.
That's it's kind of an interesting thing when I look at, what's going on in Washington, D.C., whether you like this president or not. It's like people are wanting like the government to save us, or we need better gun control. We need all these things. And or we need to fix climate change through renewable energy. It's like, these are all Band-Aid solutions to the only thing we really control, each one of us, is going inside, which is actually the hardest work to do. But to me, that's what all of this shaking up is for. It's going to wake people up.
Well, here's the deal. If we don't kill each other off, but thank God we got some core people with high energy out there. Doesn't take many to kind of keep us safe. But bottom line is, America and the world's got a lot of bad karma to work out. I mean, you get the leadership you karmically earned. So it says a lot about the United States. We're finding out that, we are racist. We are prejudiced. We hate gays. We hate aliens. We hate Mexicans. We hate Indians. Just name the list of the hates. There's not many left. We hate the Democrats. We hate the Republicans. It's like, so the United States and the world, because Germany's having these problems, the British having these problems. India first. I mean, you got leadership there doesn't want only Hindus. We don't want Christians. We don't want Muslims. So it's a worldwide thing. It's us first. Everybody else is an outsider, and there's borders. It's a phase. Unfortunately, I'm not going to see the end of this in my lifetime. Maybe you will. But we're looking at about 35 years of crap.
Mhm.
Tearing down before you can rebuild.
Mhm.
So if you look at everything as cyclic, I mean, everything's a cycle. You know, pendulum swings way right, then it swings way left. And it went too far left. Now it's going too far right. And there's no, see, when this country was and the world was running better, it used to be, well, we got these other guys in the other party. We got to work with them to get this legislation done. So I lose a little, you lose a little, you win a little. Nobody loses, but small wins. You work together. What's a compromise? That's how our country was created, and that's how the world works best. A little compromise. But now you got to have winners and losers, and that's the way it is. So I could get really crazy and go political, and I'm going, you know what? You keep coming back every lifetime, and you're fighting the political wars. You'll be here forever. The political wars are going to go on forever.
Yeah.
So my task is to wake people up individually. I'm telling people, okay, all the craziness is going on. One thing you can control is you. And you got to start with loving yourself, forgiving yourself, and having gratitude. And that sounds just like Hawaii. That's exactly the Hawaiian philosophy, right? It just flows, right?
Yeah.
You know, forgiveness, love, gratitude. That's Hawaii.
Yeah.
And that's the old tradition. And people, but since I was 18 and I was told that stuff, and I'm going, what? I'm going to save the world by loving myself. I'm going to save the world by forgetting. It was like, and you're going to heal people doing it. And I'm going, yeah, okay, there's got to be a bigger message here. And then later on, I realized, no, that's the only message.
Yeah.
You can only change you by changing your example, your energy, your frequency moves out. It changes. It's like throw a rock in the water. That rock has created waves. It's changed the surface of the pond, right? So throw something out there with good energy. Its waves are going to hit other people.
Yeah. And everyone's playing their part. Like this president is playing his part. Like I will say, I'm very grateful to him because I think he woke me up. That Trump won and the whole COVID thing. That was also coincided with my spiritual awakening, or at least really accelerated. And so I don't see these people with so much animosity. In fact, I have a lot of love for them because they're showing you what happens. You can have all the money and power in the world, but there's a lack of love. They're just showing us.
Lack of compassion for others because they see others as different than themselves.
Yes.
And that means both sides. Okay.
Yes.
Nobody looks at all as one. That's like in California. They didn't understand. I was on some radio show, I don't know, Bay Area or something. And how politically correct California has been. Oh, well, what pronoun do you want to go by? And I go, first off, I never talk to anybody I either call you by your name or I don't say nothing. I never say he, she, it, if she, whatever, right? I said, well, if I got to pick one pronoun, it's us. What do you mean us? No, there's nothing else. There's only one pronoun, us. It's all one. It's us.
Yes.
The radio person didn't get it. It was like I had to explain it. I go, I got to explain us. I go, what? No, it's us. Get outside of yourself.
Yeah.
See everybody as us.
Yeah.
Extension of the you. And then how can you hate your neighbor? How could you hate your enemy? It's God in all. Now, you don't have to love anybody. You got to love everybody. You don't have to like everybody. I mean, there's people out there and you go, oh, this guy belongs in San Quentin. It's like, he's a killer. I don't want him out here. He should be in jail, right? Absolutely true. That lifetime, he needs to be isolated. He's hurting people. So you don't make yourself out there to get beat up or hurt or anything else. But when you start seeing the greater self, then you'll have compassion that, hey, this guy doesn't have health insurance. This person needs help. I don't mind paying taxes for that stuff. I don't know, but we're going to save tax money. I don't want to take it away from everybody on Social Security. There's people out there that's their only friggin' income. Like, come on, give me a break. So we haven't reached that level where you got a billionaire out there like Elon Musk, the world's richest man, making decisions that you don't need Social Security. We're going to cut 80,000 jobs at the VA. That affects me, because I'm a disabled veteran. That's where I go get my medical. Now I'm not going to be able to get appointments for 6, 7, 8 months out. It's like, how'd that help my life? How'd it help the other veterans? It's like, whoa, he's not waiting. That's not even an issue, having medical coverage for him. And for the person with Social Security, the price of eggs is a big deal. And their groceries and trying to pay rent and try somebody in Social Security in Hawaii, they can't survive. They got to live with family. So when we get people stop thinking about themselves and having them visualize themselves as us, the greater them, then things will change. So that's why instead of going out there and beating the political drums and going, fighting every battle, because it's never ending. You'll be driving yourself crazy every day. There's always something you can fight. And I'm going, I'm taking individuals and I'm teaching them to love themselves. And as stupid and as simple as that sounds, that's the answer. Because if I could change you, and if I take all my friends that are Trumpers and all my crazy left friends that are just so far to the left, and I go, I don't want anything to do with these people. That's like a doctor saying, don't send me sick people. That's the people I need to talk to. That's the people who need to learn about love. The very people that people are cutting off, that's the people you need to be there for. You can't fix them, but you can love them and teach them, and at their own rate, at their own ability, when the time is right, the seeds will grow. But you can't go out there thinking you're going to change people, because you're not. You only can change you. Change you and you become this powerful vibrating frequency. Example speaks louder than words, even louder than my books I write. They're loud, they vibrate, people pick it up. It's like there is a vibration. You've been to my workshops, and I don't know what you felt or anything, but I had probably a dozen people afterwards send me messages that they were just feeling, and they were still feeling it a week or two later. And I tell them, that's you. It's you. I'm just waking up within you, your own spiritual frequency, your own spiritual energy. Don't credit Reverend Bill. Reverend Bill doesn't do nothing. He's just an old fat Irishman, right? But the idea is to get people to stop looking outside for a savior, realize that the savior is in the mirror. That's who's going to help you. And so when I can wake people up, even if I'm giving them energy, I'm waking up their energies. All I'm doing is jump starting them. That's all. It's not Reverend Bill doing nothing, because it's like, oh, Reverend Bill, no. Well, you cured me. It was a miracle. I go, no. It's you. People have a hard time accepting the fact that the healer is them. They have a hard time accepting the fact that the divine is within them. And they want to credit everybody outside. And the more people you look outside of yourself at, you're missing the mark. It's like the source is here. There's nothing outside of that. So you're learning that lesson, and you're also learning that you're changing you, because I noticed that with you, you're working on you first. That's a starting point for everything. Everything starts with fixing you. Not fixing your wife, your girlfriend, your boyfriend. Doesn't matter. Fix you. You can't change your enemies. You can love them from afar. Send them love, because whatever you send out truly is powerful. Whatever you send out, you get back. I mean, trust me, in ACEs. So if you
Oh.
really hate somebody and you're not forgiving somebody, you're not hurting them at all. They don't give you a second thought. It's hurting you.
Mhm.
So anyway, so I miss Hawaii, and it's been a month since I've been there, but I miss Hawaii. That was a beautiful service we had there at the Unitarian Church. Was it the Unity Church of Honolulu? I think it was. And you know, I mean, it was like the perfect thing. I mean, they even did the hula for me, you know, and so I sang Aloha Oe and Amazing Grace, and I mean, it was like it couldn't happen any better. And so, but see, that was manifested by everybody. And I say that because I got invited there, and they saw me. Some of these people saw me last year doing other places, and so they had expectations. But they also, when they invited me to do the sermon, they invited me to come to the rehearsal before, you know, and they were rehearsing the songs and the stuff and everything. And when they were rehearsing, it was like giving it to me. They really wanted to do their best. It was like, no, they're really up for this. They really want this thing to be. And when the service happened, they sang the best they ever sang. They gave the greatest readings they ever gave. The hula was great. The singing was great. The energy was great. Even my sermon was okay, but it was like everything rose to a level. And so when afterwards, I went up to some of the people on the board there, and I said, that's one of the best church services I ever went to. And he goes, yeah, we've never had one like that before. I go, what? He says, that's the best church service we've ever had. But see, they had it within them.
No.
It was within them. It just needed to be awoken. So I felt my job was done. I go, you know what?
Yeah. Oh no, it was, it was a beautiful experience. And there was there's a frequency, a field of energy, and it's we can have these powerful, you could call it altered state of consciousness. Like my path is taking me now away from psychedelics. They taught me and now I'm moving away from them. Because it tricked me. My last two experiences tricked me. That was the message, is like, you're good now. Don't rely on this anymore.
No, no. So I'm going to tell you, because I just last weekend, was it last week? I think it was last weekend. I was in Los Angeles. I was flown down there because this guy's been, he was possessed, and he was going to psychiatrist. I think for 2 years they couldn't fix him. And he'd be lifted up 2 or 3 feet, 4 feet in the air, slammed against a wall, thrown downstairs. In the middle of the night, he's getting beat up and he's bruised all over. There was demons. He did 20 years plus of hard drugs, ayahuasca, magic mushrooms, plus crack, cocaine, everything else, right? You don't open that door without letting in some darkness.
Mhm.
So I always caution people. I said, when you're doing ayahuasca and you're doing mushrooms and all this stuff and LSD, most especially, you're chasing an experience. You're not seeking love or loving. You're chasing this quote unquote spiritual experience. And so it's the experience you're chasing and not loving God. Two different things.
Yeah.
And it's like going to the gym and working out, and you're just working out, and you're starting to build your body. This other guy goes there and he's taking steroids right now. He looks good. It's not the same body. The steroid body is going to have problems later, like Arnold Schwarzenegger had heart problems, right?
Yeah.
So all these psychedelics are like steroids for the spiritual search. It's artificial. You can't tell people when they're doing it. I've given up, and people go, oh, no, and they do it every week or every month or every year. They go to South and Central America. Well, the shaman's doing it. And I said, the shaman's not an enlightened being. I'm sorry. He's a drug dealer, and he's burning incense and stuff for you and doing all this ceremony. And that doesn't make him enlightened. He's a freaking drug dealer. And you got to go through this thing and you throw up and you get sick and you got to make sure you don't hurt yourself. I don't need anybody when I meditate. I'm just loving God. So to get to that point, for me to tell people ahead of time, they're not really listening, because part of the stairway to God and understanding, the stairway to enlightenment, you reach these plateaus. One of those steps up is exploring these experiences. It's just part of it seems to be part of the thing. And the common folks will use alcohol. Why do they take alcohol? Because they feel better. They get high. They feel good. They're not doing these things to feel bad. They're always doing them to get to the euphoric place because they don't have the discipline or the time or anything else to try to do it slow and easy way. Meditation, loving, it takes more work. And it's easier just to somebody go, here, take this. Whoa, oh yeah, I'm there. I've been there. So I dealt with a guy last weekend that I had to do an exorcism on, and it was really, really, really dangerous for me. And I got a chapter written out of my next book, but it really, really, it was hard on my body. And he's great now. I mean, it really worked, but 2 years of psychiatrist couldn't do anything. One night of me working on him, the guy's good. So I don't advise anybody to do this stuff. I've done too many people, too many exorcisms where the darkness is intruded and become a part of their life. They can't close the door and get rid of it. It's like it's there. So really be careful, because you never know when that last trip you take on this stuff, if that's the one that's going to open the door. You open the door a little bit every time.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That was, it was like, for me, they have been tools, but the whole point was they got me to, I want to build a relationship with God. And it can't be done really through the medicines. Okay, so then I studied Yogananda and meditating. That was the actual path that got me closer to God.
Yeah, to go back to my original premise, though, a part of you needed to learn that lesson. You went through it. And the old saying that when the student is ready, the teacher comes. So for you at that point in your life,
yes,
that was your teacher.
Yes.
And I'm trying to tell people, well, can you skip over that a little bit? Just move forward. Yeah. Just try it without that.
Yeah.
But I'm a realist, especially when I'm dealing with a generation where everybody's doing ayahuasca, everybody's doing mushrooms, everybody's doing acid. And it's like the in thing. And I'm going, I can never endorse it, never will endorse it. I'm never going to encourage it. I see results. Somebody's got PTSD, they're depressed, they get it, but I can also show you that through my methods, I can get you through those very same things without entering the danger zone in the darkness, using things I learned in Hawaii, things I learned in India, learning things I've learned on my own shamanic path. And so I'm that voice, but I don't condemn anybody. It's like, that's their teacher. It's like evangelists. You got evangelists out there to get 28,000 people in the congregation, and people are sending in millions of dollars, and they got a $20 million airplane they fly on, and they're selling hokey books, and they got a hokey message, and it's prosperity thinking and all this other stuff. And I'm going, that's their audience.
Yeah.
Somebody needed that. Who am I to condemn them? It's a part of the process.
Right. It's bringing the medicine and the people where they're at, whatever that medicine is. It can be a conversation.
But a lot of people are being hurt by ayahuasca.
Oh yeah.
Lots of people being hurt.
I know two friends.
Somebody has great experience, and they tell everybody that everybody wants to go experience it, and they all go down in a group. They go to South America or Brazil or someplace, and I'm going, really?
Yeah. And that's never called, ayahuasca's never called me in.
And for me so here's the way it works. People want that experience, and they want to go to somebody that channels ghosts, and they want fortune tellers, and they want all this stuff. And I show up, and I'll be at one table, if I'm at some place, and I got to sign up. Going to teach you about love and forgiveness. I have one person in line. The other one, he's going to channel ghosts. They're going to talk to you. There'll be 200, 300 people. And the other guy is going to be talking about ayahuasca and mushrooms. You'll have 500 people. And I'm over here having one person who wants to talk about love. Each have our own audience. It's not a competition, but it's where you're at.
And people should be able, that's when I mentioned the teacher discipline. The student's really ready, the teacher disappears. And that's what's happened for me. It's like, it was a teacher and it's time for me to, it's dangerous. It can be very dangerous, like you said. And I'm already quite open. And so I have to be very careful.
Yeah,
And I
be
know,
careful. You don't really know. Uh, I was trying to treat a young man. This was several years ago. That this guy was a studying to be a monk at Self Realization Fellowship. He was there like 3 years. He didn't take his vows or anything, but 3 years he goes, I quit. It's not cut out for me. And he came and he left. He had nothing because he'd been 3 years. I said, okay, come stay with me. He had a brother that was in a care facility. His brother was a couple of years younger than him. And his brother graduated to high school in the Bay Area someplace. And he was top graduate, whatever the top grad, he gives a speech and everything, valedictorian or something. And he goes to Paris or Rome or someplace in Europe right as a high school graduation gift. And he did LSD a couple of times, 2 or 3 times. Never came down. His mind got screwed up forever. And this was like 30 years after the fact. And he's in a care facility. He never was able to function after that. Now that's an extreme case, but like, who knows if that's you?
yeah.
It's like he had a promising career, top graduate, accepted at Yale or Harvard or someplace, and never could function again. It's totally gone. So I tell people, you don't know who you are, and if you think you're smarter than the drugs, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
You're in trouble. So
It's also, with, I did Vipassana in March last year, 10-day silent meditation retreat. But because I had been studying Yogananda, you're actually not supposed to, I guess, if you've been studying another meditation. I guess I see why now. It was very intense for me. It was like, because as soon as they taught the technique, it was like I'd already known it for lifetimes. It was boom, and the energy was going. And I had to stop and slow down, talk to the instructor. And I almost left on day 7. I was like, this is really intense. And I didn't quite take it so seriously. I'm like, well, I haven't initiated, I haven't learned the Kriya technique, how, but that could trigger psychosis too, without the drugs.
all right, so well, there's 2 things on that. One, in Self-Realization Fellowship in particular, you fill out a form before you take that. And if you are depressed or schizophrenic or have a split personality or, all these mental things, they won't let you take it.
Mhm.
Because if you're trying to do high yoga techniques and you have a mental problem, it makes it worse. I mean, you really get worse because you,
Yeah.
so you got to be, sane and everything. But everybody goes, oh, I got to do the Kriya Yoga, it's the highest, and give me the next level, and you got to do this one. I mean, I've had beautiful samadhi experiences doing Hong Sa, Om. I don't get past that to get into doing the Kriya. It's like, uh, I got enough. I don't need this. I'm sorry. Whatever I did was working. Even if it was something simple like, I love you, Jesus. Boom, there I am. So it didn't make any difference. But you can't get there unless you've done all the work at some time in your existence, previous lifetimes, this lifetime, whatever. And most people think they're just, well, I've been meditating a year. How come I'm not enlightened? I'm going. And then I watch people do Kriya Yoga for 20, 30, 40 years because I'm an old guy. I see people on the path, right? They're not any kinder. They're not any wiser. They're not any more loving than they were when they started, because to them it's just a mental exercise. They're watching and visualizing and feeling and counting to 108 or 144 or whatever, and it just becomes an exercise. There's no heart connection. There's no love. It's like, and they think doing that is everything. And then they finish doing the Kriya Yoga and then they get up and walk away. And I go, no, 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 no. That's just prepared you to sit there in the quiet. Now you can love God. And that's where you listen. You feel, you receive, you're gifted. But you're there just to love. You expect nothing back. So teaching people that is very hard because everybody wants to get up after they. I've done it and they count it. They got their little beads. Yeah, it's 144. I'm done. 108, whatever level they're at. And then if they do 500 or something or 400, it's like it's a bragging thing. Well, I'm doing 400 something in the morning, and and I'm going. I said that's amazing because I can't get past 6 on the beads, and I'm out of it. So I don't know what I'm doing. It's like I'm sorry, I'm not doing it every day. It's like it's 2 hours later, and I go, oh, well, I never got past the first handful of beads. It's like, so it's about love. Technique is great, but if you're just doing technique, that's all you're doing. You never get out of the head because you're visualizing, you're counting. The mind is always thinking. Well, part of that is meditating. At some point you got to go, oh, nobody's home. And you don't even have that thought because it's not even a thought. You're just not there for an hour or 2 or 3 or 4 or 6 or 8 or 12 or whatever. But they're trying to do the right thing. Problem is, most people meditate with a goal. I want to be self-enlightened. This is my last lifetime. I want to be self-realized. They're demanding something of this. I'm going to love God, do all this, but I want this in return. It's a price tag. It's a quid, whatever that is. Anyway, you're doing something, you want something in return, right? So, and I'm telling people, just love God. Ask for nothing. Expect nothing. Just love. And the side effects are more than you can handle. But don't even expect that. And if it does come, sweep the porch, fetch water, chop wood, same old thing. Just let it go.
Yeah.
Get excited. It's like, okay, this just is what it is. So it takes a while for people to get there. But the thing is, you get there when you're ready. You can't force it. You got a rosebud. You want that bud to open up. Come on, this plant got to open up. You can fertilize it, water. It only going to open up and have to have so many hours in the sun. It'll open when it's ready. Same thing with this inner experience. It'll open when you are ready.
Yeah.
If you're not ready, it's still a bud. The potentiality is there, always. Anyway, it was nice talking to you.
Yes, likewise. I feel like we talk for hours longer. I don't even know how long we've been talking, but it's been
I have no idea.
flowing.
But if you get the opportunity, read my books or watch my videos, or throw rocks at me. I don't care. But at some level, take a look in the mirror and realize that you don't need me. You don't need anybody. You need us. An awareness of
That's the pronoun, us.
need us. But you don't need somebody between you and God. It's you. It's God. It's the same thing. It's the source. Same source in you as in me. Then you got to ask yourself, okay, here I am, and Reverend Bill's there, and all these other people. Are these people really have an existence, or is this whole thing my dream? Is there anybody else actually existing except me? Just throwing that out for you to think about.
I wonder that.
What makes you think me or anybody else is real to you?
I know that kind of, when I think a lot about that, it makes me kind of freaks me out. It's like, is anything?
We're just a part of your dream experience.
Well, it is a dream unfolding. I mean, that's maybe another my life is absolutely is a dream unfolding, and I'm just like, I couldn't even write a movie this good. Nobody could, and everyone. And I guess it's the hero's journey.
I could.
You could. Okay, here we go. You write the movie. It's the hero's journey. It's just like everyone has their story, and everyone's a hero in that story. So it's just, but I've been letting it unfold. I don't control it. I'm never really seeking enlightenment or self-realization. I kind of just, I follow the breadcrumbs.
If you're chasing self-realization, you're never going to find it.
Right.
You're looking, I want to meet Babaji and have a conversation. It's never going to happen.
Right.
What you chase eludes you.
Yeah. Yes, totally.
When you stop chasing, you experience.
Yes.
And that's just people don't understand that because they're
Mm,
goal orientated. This
mm,
is what I want. This is what I manifest. I go, no. If you want to
yeah.
manifest something, manifest love. It's like all these people that I talk about on their dream boards, right? Their manifestation boards, and I'm going, they're trying to manifest things instead of joy,
Mm,
happiness, peace.
yeah.
Those are the things you're trying to get to. The car ultimately, what's the feeling? Joy is what you're trying to get. But if you're trying to get it from something, you'll never get it. There is no thing that's going to give you that joy and peace. The only thing that'll do that is when you're in love with us, the greater self.
Mm.
Right. That's it. That's
Yeah,
all I have to say. You have a lovely day.
you too. Thank you for this beautiful. Hey, just went to church on Saturday morning here.
All right.
Wow.
Blessings and peace. And if you post this, let me know. I'll share it.
Awesome. Sounds good. I'll send you the video.
All right. God bless.
All right. Thank you. Aloha.
Mahalo.
Mhm.